In 1971, Ali MacGraw arrived on the set of The Getaway, with the simple expectation that this would be another standard film project in her growing career. At that time, she was married to one of the most powerful and connected men in the entire Hollywood system, coming fresh from the incredible worldwide success of Love Story, and she was viewed by many as one of the most beautiful and desired women across the entertainment world. However, when Steve McQueen stepped into her life during that production, an intense and powerful connection formed almost immediately between them, something that felt impossible to control or resist, despite the obvious complications. Crew members on the set gave repeated warnings about the developing situation. Friends circulated rumors about what they were observing, and even members of her own family began to sense that serious trouble was brewing beneath the surface. Within roughly a year, the fallout resulted in 2 broken marriages and one of the biggest public scandals to hit Hollywood in that era. The full truth behind the events turned out to be far more complex and layered than what anyone was willing to admit openly at the time. Ali MacGraw was born, Elizabeth Alice MacGraw, on April 1, 1939, in Pound Ridge, New York. From all external appearances during her childhood, her early life looked quite refined and privileged. Both of her parents earned their living as commercial artists, which created a household environment that seemed cultured, creative, and artistically rich on the outside. Yet behind that carefully maintained, polished image, the day-to-day reality was far less steady and emotionally secure than it appeared to outsiders. This ongoing contrast between how things looked to the world and how they actually felt internally remained a defining element of her personal story from a very young age. She was raised surrounded by visible signs of social status and educational opportunity. She attended the respected Rosemary Hall in Greenwich, Connecticut, and later continued her studies at Wellesley College, where she successfully graduated in 1960 with a degree focused on art history. Everything about this educational and social path strongly suggested a life marked by order, good taste, and clear privilege. Nevertheless, there was noticeable strain and underlying tension hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly ideal upbringing. Even inside her own family unit, various emotional matters and personal histories were often left unspoken or only partially addressed. Her mother came from a Jewish background, but that important aspect of her heritage was not fully acknowledged, explored, or discussed openly while Ali was growing up. As a result, even while she navigated elegant schools and artistic social circles, a sense of secrecy and things left unsaid had already become woven into her worldview. This early experience taught her a lasting lesson about how to present a calm and composed exterior to others, even when the private truths she carried were much more difficult and complicated to handle on a daily basis. That same behavioral pattern did not remain confined to her childhood years. In many important ways, it continued to shape and define the overall structure of her adult life moving forward. Long before the bright lights of Hollywood ever knew her name or recognized her talent, she had already become skilled at existing inside these kinds of personal contradictions. She possessed the ability to look entirely composed, graceful, and completely in control on the outside, while something far more fragile and uncertain was unfolding within her emotional world. Later in her public life, when observers looked at her and saw only beauty, poise, and natural ease, they were frequently witnessing the carefully protected image she had trained herself to maintain over many years. The deeper and more authentic parts of her story had actually begun forming much earlier in her development. In June of 1960, at the young age of just 21, she moved from Massachusetts to New York City, carrying her freshly earned Wellesley degree, along with very limited financial resources. The New York she encountered was a city that felt quite formal, polished, and socially rigid during that period. It was an era dominated by gray suits, formal gloves, and lengthy business lunches. For a young woman attempting to establish herself and find her professional place, the environment could often feel impersonal and challenging. Still, she managed to break into the competitive scene successfully. Within a relatively short number of months, she obtained a job at Harper's Bazaar, working as an assistant under a highly influential fashion figure. That particular position ended up changing the entire direction of her life in significant ways. Suddenly, she found herself immersed in a professional world that revolved around fantasy, visual beauty, intense pressure, and the creation of compelling images. She spent her time steaming high-end couture gowns, rushing contact sheets to printers, and closely watching how fashion was transformed into theatrical presentations through careful direction and vision. The work itself was extremely demanding with brutal professional standards, but Ali absorbed every lesson and detail she could during that time. At this point in her journey, she was not yet the woman appearing in front of the camera, but rather the dedicated person working just out of view, carefully learning the complete process of how images were built and how the appearance of perfection was assembled piece by piece through hard effort. Her valuable education in the mechanics of fashion and visual presentation continued to expand while she worked at Harper's Bazaar and later moved on to Vogue. She spent her days surrounded by still cameras, talented stylists, skilled photographers, demanding editors and professional models, gaining a thorough understanding of the entire machinery that supported the beauty industry. Her daily schedule was long and exhausting as she checked various proofs, helped coordinate photo shoots, pinned and adjusted clothing, studied the effects of lighting, and observed how a single face could be dramatically shaped and enhanced through strategic angles, shadows, and expert framing techniques. She came to a clear realization that the woman audiences admired so much on the printed page was never the result of accident or chance, but was instead deliberately arranged, corrected, softened, and refined by the hands of many skilled professionals working together. By the time Ali eventually stepped in front of the camera lens for her own appearances, she already possessed deep knowledge of exactly how the entire illusion of beauty and perfection was carefully constructed from start to finish. After departing from her role at Harper's Bazaar, she dedicated the next 6 years to working as a stylist inside the New York studio of photographer Melvin Sokolsky. That extended period held just as much importance for her development. Sokolsky was actively pushing the boundaries of fashion photography into more surreal, ambitious, and artistic directions, and Ali played a key supporting role in turning those creative ideas into actual visual reality. She located appropriate props, managed extremely punishing production schedules, and watched as even the smallest imperfections were rejected without any mercy during the editing process. Something as minor as the position of a fingertip, the alignment of a line of fabric, or even a slight unintended shift in posture could completely ruin the final desired image. Through these demanding experiences, she internalized important values of discipline, precise control, and the professional importance of making everything appear completely natural and effortless to the viewer. In actual truth, tremendous amounts of effort and meticulous work were present in every single project, but all of that labor had to disappear completely before the finished picture reached its audience. By the middle years of the 1960s, following a long phase of performing invisible background work, Ali slowly and carefully began stepping into the frame herself as a visible presence. She started modeling in various fashion layouts and then expanded into appearing in television commercials. Her particular look aligned perfectly with the spirit of the current cultural moment. She featured sharp, distinctive facial features, natural freckles, and an overall fresh, approachable, and distinctly American quality that resonated with viewers. Audiences first became familiar with her through advertisements and TV spots, long before they ever learned her full name or background story. Her warm and engaging smile became a recognizable element first, and only afterward did her personal identity begin to catch up with her growing public visibility. In a quiet yet steady manner, she was already transitioning into a more prominent figure. All of this foundational early work prepared her for much more than simply building a professional career path. It trained her deeply in the skill of making constructed images feel emotionally true and believable to those who saw them. She had come to understand very well by this stage that public presentations of beauty were nearly always the result of careful construction and deliberate choices, and that hard-earned knowledge would continue to follow and influence her throughout her film work, as well as in the way she navigated her complicated personal life. Please subscribe this channel and wait for my next video. Thank you.